Justice League issue 55, Joshua Williamson writing with Robson Roca on the art. And not Zermanico. I want to give credit to Roca though, because I think there's a really big effort here made to try and match what it felt like, what the art was, the style was, and how it looks. And it felt like the transition was smooth. Even if you can tell it's a different artist, it feels like a smooth transition to me.
I think I don't know if it's different inker maybe. Because it's not bad. Like, don't get me wrong. We've praised Roker on various books, over the past few years, and I do think he is making an effort here to, kind of play in the wheelhouse of what Zemanica was doing. I still felt it. I think the inks are a bit heavier, maybe, or a bit looser as well. So I felt it a little bit, like a few pages in. I don't think I looked at the credits page. I was a few pages in, and I was like, this just doesn't feel the same. And then when I went back and looked, I was like, that's why. So I did notice, but it's not the worst art by a long shot.
We left off the last issue with the various team members hallucinating because of the Starro field. For context,
yes.
Check out the last issue. But Lex and Nightwing were snapped out of it. Lex, because he's built up immunity to Starro, because he's been dealing with Starro telepathy for a long time.
Because Luther.
Nightwing, I don't necessarily like them using the whole brain injury as a plot device.
Forget about it.
Just because I'd like to forget anything to do with it forever. Thank you very much. But whatever. Nightwing's okay too. Lex tinkers with Cyborg's cannon, which helps snap everyone out of it. With a Vertigo of all things. So, it's a random thing to just use here to solve it, but at least it's something that is established in the DCU. I mean, it's not established at helping with this specifically, but interesting.
It'll do, right? I like the idea as well that they're confused, because it's like, hey, look, I know how Starro works. There's got to be some sort of physical connection for this to work like this. And then it turns out there's just microscopic ones that they've been breathing in. And they're attached to the inside of their lungs and such. I thought that was a kind of cool idea.
So yeah, and we get the idea that the entire beach or field that they're on is actually one giant Starro, which eventually starts to rise, and they're having to run off of him and all that. Lex reveals that he's got a ship which he's named Lana.
Yeah.
After his mother, so that's sweet, I guess. Is it just me, or is that the Metal Men that are?
Yeah, at first I thought it was like Steel or something, but then I saw there's like 3 of them, so it must be Metal Men, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think even the figurehead is gold, right? It's hard to tell. You can't quite make out the face, but it's kind of body shaped at the front, right?
Well, the question I have is where the fifth is, because we got the 3 mass, and we got the front of the ship is the gold, but where's whatever one's missing? Maybe Mercury that's missing.
Could be the ship itself.
Oh, the ship looks wooden to me, but
I mean, maybe if you tell me it's a brownish metal, I'll buy it.
Yeah, okay.
But no, I mean that's kind of my best guess. I can't see where it is either.
But they're not happy working with Lex, of course, but they have to go off and try and save Martian Manhunter and the Legion of Doom so they can take on Perpetua, Weakener, and of course get past the Omega Knight, which of course we get to see again this issue and is glorious. But we have big cliffhanger. In fact, probably my favorite page of the whole book is the 2-page spread with the Omega Knight looking down on them. They realize that because they're trying to sneak in. Lex is trying to use Nightwing's stealth abilities to get around. Unfortunately, though, the Mind Hunter, the Batman, Martian Manhunter, the evil one, he's essentially stolen Martian Manhunter's mind and lures in Kendra, and with that has figured out that they're all coming. So they all know they're there. The Omega Knight attacks them, and the final page, the cliffhanger, is the Omega Knight blasting the team with an energy beam. So
even Lex is going, yeah, we're doomed.
Yes. So I mean, if this was anything else, like if this wasn't a cliffhanger, which I know they're going to somehow resolve in a way that they're all okay, that last page would look like they're all being killed. Quite
I think
frankly.
what's interesting is because we're still in the Metalverse and things need to be reset anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of possible they are killed.
Well, yeah, but it's like all the main team though, right? Like everyone.
Right, but I think what I'm going to refer back to is a little bit earlier in the issue. Chimp is in a bad place when they grab him because he's not snapped out because he's not with the rest of the group, so he's not snapped out straight away, and he's kind of annoyed at them. He's like, "No, you should have just left me. I was in a happy place. I was in." They're like, "Well, it wasn't real." He's like, "Yeah, well, this place isn't really real either. We all kind of know that." And they're like, "Look, we got to go do what we can. We're the Justice League." And he's like, no, we're not the Justice League. We're the Suicide Squad." And that almost might have been a really smart bit of foreshadowing for this ending here of, no, they are the Suicide Squad. They're all gone, and there's kind of a new team next issue. That would be a ballsy as hell move.
It would definitely be a brave move to start next issue with, maybe because Detective Chimp's left back on the boat. He doesn't come with them.
Yeah.
So it'd be definitely an interesting move to start the next issue with, no, Lex, Nightwing, Starfire, Cyborg, they're all dead. And Chimp's on his own and he finds maybe someone else to help him. But maybe he becomes more brave because he needs to. I don't know. Like, there's maybe directions you can go there if that's the case. Yeah. I will say though, I don't know if I expect it, just in the sense that I'm enjoying this tie-in arc well enough, but the pacing of it is not being super like quick. It does feel like it's maybe a little bit of a stalling arc in the sense that the characters are moving at kind of a relatively slow pace. It feels like, the story of these 3 issues could have been done probably in 2. Like, there's definitely a lot of smaller beats in between things. And while I like smaller beats for a lot of these things, it didn't kind of feel like, when I read issue 2 and then this third issue here, a lot of it felt like, okay, like we're still traveling to get there. We're still, I feel like we set up that we have to get to these characters. We have to get to Martian Manhunter in the first issue of this arc. And we're in issue 3, and we're only just kind of getting there now at the end of this issue.
No, I agree. I think the first issue was really solidly paced.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't quite notice it as much in 2, because 2, I'm like, okay, that's the issue where we're doing the Starro stuff, right? Because that's what we did with Nightwing for a lot of the back half of that issue. So that's the obstacle for the issue as to why we're not getting to the characters, straight away. But then this issue, a good half of it, if not more, is still Starro stuff. It kind of feels weirdly paced out because of that. So it does feel like these 2 probably should have been condensed into 1. And it does feel like, let's say, stalling a little bit. Like, it knows it needs to be 7 issues or whatever, but it's really only 4 or 5 issues of story. It doesn't feel like the worst example ever, because like I say, that first issue was really well paced. So, yeah, we'll just have to hope it picks back up. Now we're into the back half, I guess, after this.
Well, the point I was trying to make, I think, is that because of the pacing, like, I would be surprised if the last 2 issues take such a drastic turn with a different character. Is why I'm feeling like it's unfeasible. But I mean, they may surprise me and do it anyway, and maybe the last 2 issues will be very differently paced.
I actually agree. It's probably unlikely that they're going to swap the cast out and do something different for the last handful of issues. I think the reality is you're probably right, and they're just somehow not dead. I'm just trying to find a more interesting solution. Ultimately, or at least interesting to me, solution would be to just kind of upend the premise on its head. And, oh no, the heroes did lose and we need more heroes. That's, to me, I think is more interesting than just this cliffhanger of, oh, they're all dead. Oh, never mind, no, they're not. Which is the usual thing, right? It's not like it's the worst cliffhanger because we see it all the time, but it's more just, it's kind of meaningless.
Yeah. But there's one thing in what you hope they're going to do and what they are going to do. So I don't know if I necessarily expect them to do anything other than just the typical, oh, somehow they're not dead.
They've given me just enough in the issue to think it's a possibility, right? But also not enough that I think they're actually going to do it. I still think it's quite unlikely. But yeah. It's an okay issue. I will suggest this is a weird complaint. I really did not like the title page. So they had the story title come up with Doom Metal, and it's like made out of the little stars and the like luminescent stars, and they were so bright, and the way it was placed on the screen, I struggled to kind of make out essentially, what the words were. I was like, what is this doing here? There's all these just like luminescent lights in the middle of the screen. It took my eyes refocusing a couple of times to actually kind of figure out what it was. I think it was just a bad choice of coloring, spacing on the stars, perhaps. I don't know exactly. I just don't think it was the right choice. It distracted me from the rest of the action that was going on the page, trying to read these words in the middle that were ultimately just meaningless.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still had a decent bit of time with the issue. Like, it's not like I think this tie-in arc from Justice League. The first one was definitely the best one, and I felt a little bit the pacing last time, but it was intriguing enough by the ending. I think this one, though, when it kind of we wrapped up the Star Wars thing, and it was still about getting to Jean and still about getting to like these characters. I kind of just felt like, I mean, you could have just taken all the Star Wars stuff out, and this could have been one issue. Like this could have just gotten straight there. But maybe it has to fill 5 issues, so there's a little bit of like stalling going on, or
it does feel like there's an editorial mandate of, we've got this many issues until Endless Winter, and that's when the book's being commandeered. We need these issues filled by death metal tie-in.
Yeah.
It definitely has that feeling to it.
So, but it's not a bad read either, though. I think,
I agree.
There's some interesting beats there. The art's pretty solid. It may not be quite as good as Zermanico, but I think Robson Roque is a solid artist. And like I say, that 2-page spread with the Omega Knight, I think it looks really good.
No, there is a lot of, in a vacuum, I would say, yeah, although this issue looks really good. I think coming off of 2 issues of Zermanico hurts it. Just kind of, it feels like a bit of a drop after that, even though it's actually quite good in its own right.
What are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll agree with that. 6.5. I've tried to decide if I wanted to go higher or lower, and like neither one seemed appealing, so I guess I just agree with you. But
you just really don't want to agree with me.
No, it's not that. It's just more. It's more. I would rather give a solid number than a half if I can help it, but sometimes that's just where something lies.